I was sitting at the white tablecloth in Morton's Steakhouse, celebrating what should have been a happy evening. My son Tyler had just gotten promoted to regional manager, and the whole family was there. The lighting was warm and low, candles flickering on our table, and I could smell prime rib and garlic butter wafting from the kitchen. Tyler sat beside his wife Amber. My late wife's sister Helen was across from me, and a few close family friends filled out the table. Then Amber stood up, her face twisted with something I had never seen before. She pointed at me and said loud enough for half the restaurant to hear, "I've been disgusted with you since day one, Archie. You're a manipulative, controlling old man who ruined your own wife's life. And now, you're trying to control ours." Everything went silent. I just smiled, stood up calmly, and said goodbye to everyone at the table. As I walked toward the exit, the restaurant's large-screen television suddenly flickered on. The screen glowed bright in the dim restaurant, and I stopped near the door, turning back to watch along with everyone else. The footage was crystal clear. Security camera timestamps ran across the bottom, dates from the past 6 months, all from various angles in my home. The first clip showed Amber in my bedroom when Tyler and I were supposedly out golfing. She opened my wife's jewelry box and slipped a diamond bracelet into her purse. The timestamp read 3 months ago, a Saturday afternoon. I remembered that day. Tyler said Amber was home with a headache. The next clip was worse. Amber stood in my home office, photographing documents spread across my desk. Bank statements, investment portfolios, property deeds. She used her phone, taking picture after picture, glancing toward the door between each shot like a thief checking for witnesses. Then came the meeting footage. This I had gotten from a private parking lot camera near a law office downtown. Amber sat in her car, talking with a sharp-dressed attorney. The audio was muffled, but readable through lip-reading software I had paid for. They discussed strategies for Tyler to maximize his inheritance, and how to expedite the old man's decline. The restaurant patrons gasped. I heard chairs scraping, but the worst part was still coming. The final clips showed Amber with a man I had identified as Derek, her personal trainer from the gym. They were at a coffee shop, then later at his apartment building. The footage showed them embracing, kissing, talking intimately. The audio on these was clear because I had hired someone to get close enough with directional microphones. Derek's voice came through the speakers. "So you really married him just for the money?" Amber laughed, cold and sharp. "Tyler's sweet but boring. Once his father dies and we get the estate settled, I'm gone. You and I can finally do what we planned. California, that business we talked about, all of it." The restaurant was completely silent now except for the video. Every eye was on the screen, then on Amber, who had frozen in her chair like a statue, her face drained of all color. I expected Tyler to turn on her immediately. I expected vindication. Instead, Amber's survival instincts kicked in with a speed that stunned me. She burst into tears. Not gentle crying, but huge, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She threw herself into Tyler's arms and wailed, "It's fake! Oh God, Tyler, it's fake! Your father hired someone to make this. He's been trying to destroy us for months because he can't stand seeing you happy with someone else after your mom died." Tyler's face was white as paper. He looked at me, then at Amber sobbing against his chest, then back at the screen where the video had ended. Amber kept going, her voice breaking perfectly between sobs. "The jewelry thing. I borrowed that bracelet once to get it appraised for insurance like you asked me to, remember? And those documents. I was organizing your dad's files like he requested. But this video, it's been manipulated. It's deepfake technology. People can make anyone look like they're doing anything now. Tyler, please. You have to believe me. Your father has been so controlling, so manipulative. He probably spent thousands on this because he hates me." She turned to face the restaurant, tears streaming down her face. "I loved my mother-in-law. I respected this family. But Archie has never accepted me. He's been waiting for a chance to turn Tyler against me, and now he's created this lie." A few people in the restaurant actually looked sympathetic. One woman was nodding. The power of a woman's tears in public is something I had underestimated. Tyler stood up slowly. His jaw was tight. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. disappointment mixed with disgust. "Dad," he said quietly, but his voice carried in the silence. "I don't know what you've become. Creating fake videos? Hiring people to stalk my wife? This is sick. We're leaving. Don't contact us until you get professional help." Helen, my sister-in-law, reached out to touch my arm. "Archie, maybe you should talk to someone. This seems, the video technology these days, it's very advanced and—" She trailed off, uncertain. Even she was not fully on my side. Amber stood up, still crying, letting Tyler put his arm around her protectively. She glanced at me for just a second, and in that brief moment, her eyes were completely dry and cold. Then the tears were back as she turned into Tyler's shoulder. They walked out of the restaurant. Half the table followed them, murmuring sympathetically to Amber. The family friends looked uncomfortable, gathering their things quickly. I stood there holding my phone, which had the original files and authentication documents, but nobody wanted to see them. The restaurant manager approached nervously, asking if I needed anything, clearly wanting me to leave. I paid the bill for the entire table, left a generous tip, and walked out into the cold October night. My car sat alone in the parking lot. Tyler's vehicle was already gone. I sat behind the wheel for 20 minutes, replaying everything. My perfect plan had backfired completely. I thought the truth would set things right. Instead, I was now the villain. An unstable old man, so desperate and controlling that he fabricated evidence against his own daughter-in-law. The drive home took forever. My house felt enormous and empty. It had been 3 years since my wife died, and I still was not used to the silence. I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat in the dark living room, wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. I had been so certain the video would work, so sure that seeing would equal believing. But Amber had outmaneuvered me completely. She turned my evidence into proof of my instability. She weaponized her tears, and Tyler's love for her. And now I had lost my son. 3 days passed without a word from Tyler. I tried calling twice, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried texting, but got no response. The silence was worse than anger. On the 4th day, a courier arrived at my door. The envelope was thick and official. Inside were legal documents that made my hands shake as I read them. Amber had filed a temporary restraining order against me for harassment and cyberstalking. According to the petition, I had been following her, taking unauthorized photographs, and creating false digital evidence to defame her character. The order prohibited me from coming within 500 feet of her or Tyler's residence. Attached was a civil lawsuit. Amber was suing me for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. She claimed the fabricated video had damaged her reputation in the community, caused severe psychological trauma, requiring therapy, and destroyed her sense of safety. She was seeking $500,000 in damages. I called my attorney, Dennis Crawford, who had handled my estate planning for 15 years. His secretary scheduled an appointment for that afternoon. Dennis's office was downtown in one of those old buildings with high ceilings and dark wood paneling. He sat across from me, reading through the documents with his reading glasses perched on his nose. "This is serious, Archie," he said finally. "Restraining orders are one thing, but a $500,000 lawsuit is another. Tell me about this video." I explained everything. The security cameras I had installed after noticing items missing from my home. The 6 months of footage I had collected. The parking lot surveillance I had obtained legally through a private investigator. The audio recordings from public spaces. Dennis listened, taking notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his leather chair and sighed. "The problem is proving authenticity. In today's world, with deepfake technology becoming so sophisticated, juries are skeptical of video evidence. Amber's attorney will hire experts who'll testify that the footage could have been manipulated. And if there's even a shadow of doubt, you lose the defamation case and potentially face sanctions for filing a frivolous defense." "But I have the original files," I protested. "Metadata, timestamps, everything, which can also be fabricated," Dennis said gently. "I'm not saying you did, Archie. I believe you. But convincing a judge and jury is different, and there's another issue. The restraining order petition includes statements from Tyler supporting Amber's claims. Your own son is saying you've been acting erratically. That hit me like a punch to the gut. Tyler said that? Dennis slid a page across the desk. There it was. Tyler's signature on a statement describing how I had become increasingly paranoid and controlling after his mother's death. How I had accused Amber of things without evidence. How I had refused to accept their marriage from the beginning. Some of it was true, twisted just enough to sound damning. I had been overprotective. I had questioned some of Amber's decisions, but I had never been paranoid or irrational. We need to respond to both the restraining order and the lawsuit, Dennis said. I recommend we contest the restraining order but consider settling the civil suit. Fighting both will be expensive and emotionally draining. Settle? I felt my voice rise. I didn't do anything wrong. I understand. But sometimes in law, being right is not enough. You need to prove you're right. And that's become very difficult. I left Dennis's office feeling worse than when I arrived. That evening, Tyler finally called. I answered on the first ring. Dad. His voice was flat, distant. Tyler, son, please listen to me. No, you listen. Amber's therapist says she's having panic attacks because of what you did. She wakes up screaming. She's afraid to leave the house. Her lawyer had the video analyzed by a forensic expert who says the timestamps don't match the security camera's actual recording system specifications. You doctored the footage, Dad. How could you? I didn't doctor anything. Tyler, that video is real. Everything on it happened. I can prove it. Stop. Just stop. I hired my own video expert, and he's reviewing everything. If he finds even a shred of evidence that you manipulated those files, I will never speak to you again. And if somehow, impossibly, you're telling the truth. His voice cracked. I don't even know what that would mean. Either way, Amber and I are done with family dinners, done with holidays, done with all of it until you admit what you did and get help. Tyler, please. He hung up. I sat in the darkness of my living room, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. The next morning, I drove to the security company that had installed my home system. I needed the original backup files, the raw footage that would prove I had not manipulated anything. The company was in an industrial park on the south side of town. Craig, the manager who had handled my installation, met me in the lobby. He looked uncomfortable before I even said anything. Mr. Archie, I was hoping you'd come by. We need to talk. He led me to a small conference room and closed the door. There's been a situation with your account, Craig said carefully. Last week, someone accessed your cloud backup remotely and deleted the original files. All that's left are the copies you downloaded to your personal computer. My heart sank. How is that possible? Don't you have security? We do. But whoever did this knew what they were doing. They used your login credentials, so the system thought it was you accessing your own files. By the time we realized something was wrong, the backup retention period had expired. They're gone. Can't you recover them? There must be some way. Craig shook his head. We tried. The deletion was thorough. And there's something else. He hesitated. The police were here yesterday. A woman filed a report, claiming we were involved in creating fake surveillance footage for a client. She had our company name, your name, everything. We're under investigation now. That's insane. You installed legitimate security cameras. I know. But until the investigation is closed, company policy is that I can't provide testimony or assistance in any legal matters involving our equipment. I'm sorry, Archie. I truly am. But my hands are tied. I walked out of that building feeling like the ground was disappearing beneath my feet. Amber had thought of everything. She had destroyed the evidence, compromised the source, and positioned herself as the victim. Every move I made to defend myself, she had already planned a countermove for. That night, I could not sleep. I kept replaying moments from the past 2 years, seeing them differently now. The times Amber had been so sweet and accommodating, the way she always knew exactly what to say to Tyler, how she had gradually isolated him from old friends and family, always with reasonable explanations. I found myself in my bedroom closet, pulling down boxes from the top shelf. My wife's things, which I had been unable to sort through after she died. Her clothes still smelled faintly of her perfume. Her journals were stacked in a cloth box. I opened one from 2 years before she passed. Her handwriting, neat and careful, filled the pages. Most entries were mundane. Doctor appointments, garden plans, grocery lists. Then, I found an entry dated 6 months before Tyler and Amber got engaged. I worry about this girl Tyler is seeing. Amber seems nice enough on the surface, but there's something calculated about her. The way she asks questions about our finances, our property, Archie's business. Tyler is so smitten he does not notice. I mentioned my concerns to Archie, but he says I'm being overprotective. Maybe I am. I hope I'm wrong. 3 months later, another entry. Tyler announced the engagement today. Everyone was happy except me. I should be thrilled for my son, but I cannot shake this feeling. Amber has been too perfect, too accommodating. She mirrors whatever Tyler wants. I have seen her on her phone constantly, and once I saw her screen over her shoulder. She was looking at our tax returns that were on Archie's desk. When I asked about it, she said she was helping organize the files. Maybe I'm just being a suspicious old woman. 1 month before my wife died. Her final entry about Amber. I tried talking to Tyler again about Amber. He got angry and said I was trying to ruin his happiness. Now I feel like I've driven a wedge between us. Archie tells me to let it go, that Tyler is a grown man. But a mother knows. Something is not right. I pray I am wrong, for Tyler's sake. I closed the journal and sat on the closet floor, surrounded by my dead wife's belongings. She had seen it. She had warned me, and I had dismissed her concerns. And now she was gone, unable to help her son. And I was alone trying to fight a battle I was losing badly. A week after the legal papers arrived, my phone rang with Helen's number. My sister-in-law. I answered with a surge of hope. Finally, someone who would listen. Archie. We need to talk, Helen said. Her voice was not warm. Of course. When can we meet? No. We should talk now. On the phone. She paused. Amber came to see me yesterday. My hope evaporated. She spent 2 hours at my house. Helen continued. She brought documents, Archie. Medical records, therapy notes, even audio recordings from the past year. She says you've been having memory problems. Paranoid delusions. She says Tyler has been covering for you, trying to protect your dignity. That's not true. Helen, you've known me for 30 years. Do I seem unstable to you? That's just it. She played me a recording from last Thanksgiving. You were at a restaurant with Tyler and Amber, and apparently you got very upset, accused the waiter of being a spy sent by your neighbors. Tyler had to calm you down and get you out of there. I had left early that night because I was not feeling well, so I didn't see it. But Archie, is that true? Have you been having episodes? I racked my brain. Last Thanksgiving, we had eaten at that Italian place downtown. I remembered the food, the conversation about Tyler's job. But an episode about a spy? No, that never happened. Or did it? The doubt crept in like poison. I had been under tremendous stress since my wife died. Sometimes I did feel confused. Sometimes I forgot small things. Could I have had a moment I did not remember? I don't recall that, I said slowly. I've been stressed, yes, but I haven't been having paranoid delusions. Amber showed me prescriptions, Archie. Medications for psychiatric conditions. Your doctor's name was on them. What doctor? I haven't been prescribed any psychiatric medications. Dr. Patricia Morrison. She's listed as your primary care physician in the records Amber showed me. Dr. Morrison was indeed my doctor, but I had never gotten psychiatric prescriptions from her. Helen, whatever Amber showed you, it's fake. She's creating a false narrative. Why would she do that? What does she gain? Control. Money. She wants Tyler's inheritance, and she needs me out of the way. Helen was quiet for a long moment. Archie, listen to yourself. That sounds exactly like a paranoid delusion. A massive conspiracy theory, where everyone is against you. Maybe you should see someone. Not for Tyler or Amber, but for yourself. These things, dementia, it can come on gradually. You might not realize it's happening. After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Even Helen doubted me now. Amber had gotten to her first, planted seeds of doubt with false evidence. I logged into my medical records online, the patient portal Dr. Morrison's office used. My hands were shaking as I typed my password. The records loaded, And there they were. Doctor's notes from appointments I never attended. Dates when I was actually at home or running errands. But according to these records, I was in Dr. Morrison's office discussing memory problems and mood changes. Prescriptions for medications I had never taken. Clonazepam for anxiety. Risperidone for agitation. Memantine for cognitive decline. Someone had hacked into the medical record system and created a completely false history. It looked official, complete with Dr. Morrison's digital signature on every note. I called Dr. Morrison's office immediately. The receptionist put me through after I explained it was urgent. "Dr. Morrison, this is Archie. I need to talk to you about my medical records. Someone has falsified information in my file." "Archie, what are you talking about?" She sounded genuinely concerned. I explained what I had found. The fake appointments, the prescriptions, all of it. "That's very troubling," she said. "Let me pull up your file." I heard computer keys clicking. "You're right. There are entries here from dates when I was actually out of the country at a medical conference. This is clearly fraudulent. I'll report this to the hospital's IT security and to the state medical board. Someone has committed a serious crime." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you. And would you be willing to testify that these records are false? That I've been mentally competent at all our actual appointments?" The relief was short-lived. "Archie, I can certainly testify to what I've observed in our legitimate appointments, and I'll verify that these false records exist. But once we report this breach, it's going to open up a HIPAA investigation, and if there's a legal question of your mental competency, I have to protect my practice. Healthcare litigation is complicated, and I cannot afford to get tangled up in a family dispute. I'm sorry, but I'll need to limit my involvement to reporting the security breach. I cannot be a witness in whatever legal case you're building." "But you're my doctor. You know I'm not having memory problems or delusions. At our appointments, you've been fine. But I only see you twice a year for checkups, Archie. I cannot speak to your day-to-day mental state. And frankly, the fact that someone was able to hack the medical record system to target you specifically suggests there's a lot going on here that I don't understand. I have to stay out of it. I'm truly sorry." Another door closed. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey and my wife's journal open in front of me. I read her words again, her warnings about Amber. She had known. She had seen right through the act. And I had not listened. I had told her she was being overprotective, that she should give Amber a chance. If she were here now, what would she say? Probably that I needed to be smarter, more strategic. That fighting Amber head-on was playing into her hands, but I was tired. So tired. Losing my wife had hollowed me out. Losing my son was finishing the job, and now I was losing everything else. My reputation, my autonomy, maybe even my sanity, if people actually believed Amber's lies. I poured another drink and stared at the dark windows, seeing only my own reflection staring back. Dennis called me on a Tuesday morning 2 weeks after the lawsuit arrived. His voice had an edge I had not heard before. "Archie, we have a serious problem. Tyler has filed a petition with the court for a conservatorship hearing." The words took a moment to register. "A what?" "A conservatorship. He's asking the court to declare you mentally incompetent to manage your own affairs and to appoint him as your conservator. Essentially, he would gain legal control over your finances, your property, all of your assets. The hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from today." I felt the room tilt. "He can't do that. I'm not incompetent. That's what we'll argue." "But Archie, this is not going to be easy. The petition includes the falsified medical records, statements from Amber about your behavior, even testimony from Helen, expressing concerns about your mental state. Tyler's attorney is painting a picture of an elderly man in cognitive decline who needs protection from himself. Protection. This is about Amber getting control of my money, perhaps. But that's not how it will be presented in court. It will be framed as a loving son trying to help his ailing father. And if the conservatorship is granted, Tyler will have full authority over everything. Your bank accounts, your house, your investments. You'll receive an allowance for personal expenses, but all major decisions will be his." After Dennis hung up, I sat in my study and forced myself to think clearly. This was not about pride anymore. This was about survival. If Tyler got conservatorship, with Amber whispering in his ear, I would lose everything. They could sell my house, liquidate my accounts, move me into some facility. I would be powerless. I needed help. Real help. Someone who could dig up dirt that would actually stick. I found Raymond through an online search for private investigators specializing in fraud cases. His website showed a weathered face, gray hair, and eyes that had seen too much. Retired police detective, 25 years on the force, now working private cases. We met at a diner on the edge of town. Raymond was in his 60s, built solid, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. He ordered coffee and listened while I explained everything. I've seen this before, Raymond said when I finished. Not exactly this, but similar. People who make a career out of finding vulnerable targets and bleeding them dry. It's more common than you'd think. Can you investigate her background? Find out if she's done this before? I can try. What's her maiden name? Amber Lynn Carter. She's 32, from somewhere in the Midwest originally. That's all I know. Raymond made notes in a small notebook. Give me a week. I'll see what I can find. 6 days later, Raymond called me. We need to meet. I've got something. This time we met at his office, a small room above an insurance agency. He had a file folder spread across his desk. Archie, your instincts were right. Amber has done this twice before. He slid photographs across the desk. Amber with different hair, younger, standing next to an older man in his 70s. This is Walter Preston, 68 at the time, widower, living in Nevada. Amber married him 8 years ago. She was with him for 14 months. During that time, she systematically drove wedges between Walter and his adult children, claimed they were after his money, convinced him to change his will. Then she filed for divorce, claiming emotional abuse. Walter tried to fight it, said she had manipulated him, but she had documentation. Therapy notes about his controlling behavior, recordings of arguments she had provoked. She walked away with $200,000 in the settlement. Another photo. Amber with shorter hair, standing beside a different older man. This is Donald Hayes, 71 at the time, from Oregon, widower. Amber married him 5 years ago. Same pattern. Isolated him from his family, convinced him he was having memory problems, got him declared incompetent. Donald ended up in a nursing home, while his assets mysteriously disappeared into care costs and legal fees that somehow benefited Amber. By the time the family figured out what was happening, the money was gone, and Amber had vanished. They divorced a year later. I stared at the photographs, feeling sick. Did these men report her to police? Walter tried. But by the time he understood what had happened, Amber had covered her tracks. Nothing technically illegal, just immoral. Donald's family tried too, but the conservatorship was legal, the expenses were documented. Hard to prove fraud when everything looks legitimate on paper. Can we get these men to testify? If Tyler sees that Amber has done this before, maybe he'll believe me. Raymond grimaced. Walter might. He's 76 now, living in Arizona, still angry about what happened. Donald is in a memory care facility. His dementia is real now, probably accelerated by the stress Amber put him through. He wouldn't be a credible witness, but this is evidence. This proves a pattern. It helps your case, sure, but it's not a smoking gun. Amber's attorney will argue that her previous relationships are irrelevant to the question of your mental competency. They'll say you're grasping at straws, trying to smear her character. Still, it was something. I asked Raymond to prepare a formal report documenting everything he found. Then I tried to call Tyler. He did not answer. I sent him a text. Please, son, I have evidence you need to see. About Amber's past. Meet me for coffee. 15 minutes. That's all I ask. He responded an hour later. Stop. You're making this worse. I tried again. She's done this to other men. I have proof. Please, just look at what I found. His response was immediate. Dad, now you're hiring private investigators to stalk my wife? This is exactly what Amber said you'd do. This proves her point. The conservatorship hearing is happening. Maybe once you're getting proper care, you'll see how sick you've become. My phone rang. It was Dennis. Archie, I just received notice that Amber is amending her lawsuit. She's adding a harassment claim for hiring an investigator to stalk her. She's seeking an additional $50,000 in damages and asking for a restraining order expansion to include any third parties you hire. Every move I made to defend myself became another weapon in her hands. I was trapped in a nightmare where the truth did not matter, where evidence was twisted into proof of my instability. That night, I did not sleep. I paced my house, room to room, trying to think of something, anything that would break through Tyler's defenses. But Amber had built her fortress perfectly. Every stone I threw at it came back at me twice as hard. The conservatorship hearing was 8 days away, and I was running out of options. 6 days before the hearing, I woke up at 3 a.m. with crushing pain in my chest. My left arm was numb. Cold sweat soaked through my shirt. I tried to sit up, but the room spun. I managed to reach my phone and dial 911. The operator's voice was calm and professional, asking questions, telling me to stay on the line, promising help was coming. The ambulance arrived within 7 minutes. Paramedics swarmed into my bedroom, checking vitals, asking about medications, lifting me onto a stretcher. The ceiling passed overhead as they wheeled me out. The October night was cold and clear, stars bright above. I wondered if I was dying. At the hospital, they rushed me into the emergency room. Doctors and nurses moved with practiced efficiency. An EKG machine beeped. Someone started an IV. The pain in my chest was a vice grip, squeezing tighter. Am I having a heart attack? I asked the doctor. Not quite, but close. Severe stress-induced cardiac event. Your blood pressure is dangerously high. We're getting it under control, but you need to stay calm. Any family we can call? My son, I managed to say. Tyler, they called him. I do not know what they said, but an hour later, Tyler walked into my hospital room. His face was pale, worried. For a moment, he looked like my boy again, the kid who used to climb into my lap after bad dreams. Then Amber walked in behind him, and his expression shifted. How are you feeling, Dad? Tyler asked, standing awkwardly near the door. Like I got hit by a truck. My voice was hoarse from the oxygen mask they had me on earlier. Tyler, I'm sorry. For everything. I just wanted to protect you. Amber moved closer, putting her hand on Tyler's arm. The doctor said stress caused this. You need to take better care of yourself, Archie. A nurse came in to check my vitals, and Tyler stepped into the hallway to speak with my doctor. That left me alone with Amber. She moved to stand next to my bed, close enough that her voice would not carry. Her face transformed. The concerned daughter-in-law mask dropped, replaced by something cold and predatory. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be, she said quietly. Just accept the conservatorship gracefully. Sign over financial control to Tyler, drop these ridiculous accusations, and I'll drop the lawsuit. You can live out your remaining years in peace. She smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. Fight me, and I'll make sure you end up in a state facility where Tyler will never visit, where you'll rot alone, and I'll sell your house and spend your money on vacations while you eat pudding cups and watch game shows. Is that what you want? I wanted to scream, to call for a nurse, to tell Tyler what she had just said. But my chest hurt, and the monitors were beeping, and any extreme emotion could trigger another cardiac event. I was trapped in my own failing body. Amber patted my hand, her expression shifting back to concerned warmth as Tyler returned. We should let him rest, she said sweetly. The doctor says he needs calm and quiet. They left. I lay in the hospital bed, staring at the acoustic tile ceiling, feeling more helpless than I ever had in my life. That night, alone in my room with only the beeping monitors for company, my phone rang. Raymond's number. Archie, I need to tell you something. His voice was grim. I'm withdrawing from your case. I'm refunding your money. What? Why? I had visitors today. 3 men who made it very clear that continuing to investigate Amber would be bad for my business and for my family. They knew where my daughter lives, where my grandson goes to school. They didn't make direct threats, but the message was clear. Raymond, please. I need your help. I'm sorry. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and I've never backed down from a case. But these people, whoever Amber is connected to, they have reach. They have resources. I can't put my family at risk. I'm out. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Dennis called. Archie, I've been thinking about your case. The conservatorship hearing is going to be very difficult to win. The medical records, even if falsified, are in the system. Your recent cardiac event doesn't help. And honestly, my firm is concerned about the liability of representing you against such serious allegations. These harassment and stalking claims, if they stick, could bring sanctions against me as your attorney. I think you should consider settling with Amber, dropping your defense, and working out terms for the conservatorship that protect your basic rights. You want me to give up? I want you to be realistic. Sometimes the best outcome is minimizing damage rather than seeking total victory. After he hung up, I turned off the lights in my hospital room and lay in the darkness. The hallway was quiet except for distant voices and the occasional cart rolling past. I thought about my wife, about how she would have handled this. She was always stronger than me, more clear-headed in a crisis. When she got her cancer diagnosis, she faced it with courage I could not match. She made plans, put affairs in order, said goodbye to people with grace. But she had also made me promise something the night before she died. Her voice was weak, her hand cold in mine, but her eyes were fierce. Don't let them win, she had said. Whatever happens after I'm gone, don't give up. You're stronger than you think, Archie. Promise me. He had promised. Lying in that hospital bed, beaten and exhausted, I tried to remember what strength felt like. I tried to find some reserve to keep fighting, but I felt empty. Amber had systematically destroyed every defense, every ally, every piece of evidence. She had turned my own son against me. She had made me look like a paranoid old man having delusions. And in 2 days, unless something changed, I would lose everything. On my 3rd day in the hospital, a man I did not recognize walked into my room. He was in his early 30s, fit, wearing a leather jacket and jeans. He looked nervous. "Mr. Archie? I'm Derek. Derek Walsh. Can we talk?" I tensed. This was the man from the video. Amber's supposed lover. "What do you want?" "I need to tell you the truth." He glanced at the door, then pulled a chair close to my bed and sat down. "I'm tired of being Amber's puppet." "Explain." Derek took a breath. "Amber and I were never really romantic. She paid me to act in those videos, told me it was for a prank on her husband, said it was like a reality show thing, that Tyler would find it funny eventually. She paid me $5,000. I'm a personal trainer. I don't make much, so I agreed." "You're telling me the affair was staged?" "Completely. Those conversations about marrying for money, about California, she scripted all of it. Made me repeat lines until they sounded natural. At first I thought it was weird but harmless. But over the months, I realized Amber was running a scam. She kept asking me to do more things. Create fake social media posts, send staged text messages she could screenshot. She paid well, so I did it." "Why are you telling me this now?" Derek looked genuinely ashamed. "Because she threatened me. Last week, after your video played at the restaurant, Amber called me. She said if I ever talked to anyone about what really happened, she'd claim I stalked her, that I was obsessed with her, and created fake evidence, trying to frame her for an affair that never happened. She said she'd ruin my life." He pulled out his phone. "But I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Yesterday, I overheard her on the phone talking about her next target, some wealthy guy in California she's been chatting with online. She called you and Tyler stepping stones. Said once she gets the estate settled, she's gone." Derek played the recording. Amber's voice came through clearly. "Tyler is sweet but boring, and his dad is finally falling apart. The conservatorship hearing is in a few days. Then I just need to wait for the old man to die. Won't be long, the stress is killing him. Then I can liquidate everything and move on. The guy in California is perfect. Tech money, recently divorced, lonely. Easier than Tyler was." Another voice. A woman I did not recognize. "You're terrible, but effective." Amber laughed. "It's not hard. Lonely men are desperate for attention. Their families are desperate to believe I'm good for them. And old men like Archie are too proud to admit they've been fooled. By the time anyone figures it out, I'm gone." My hands shook as Derek stopped the recording. "She said that yesterday?" "Yes. I recorded it through her apartment door. I went there to confront her about the threats, but I heard her on the phone, and I recorded it instead." This recording, it proves everything. Why didn't you go to Tyler? Because Amber has leverage on me too. The fake videos, the staged affair, I participated in that. If this goes public, I could be charged with fraud or conspiracy. And honestly, I'm scared. The people Amber knows, they're not just lawyers. After she threatened me, my gym locker was broken into. Nothing stolen, but someone went through my stuff. Message received. So why risk telling me? Because I can't sleep at night. Because what she's doing to you, driving you and your son apart, it's evil. My dad died when I was young. If someone had tried to destroy my relationship with him before that, I would want someone to stop them. Derek stood up. I can't testify in court. This recording probably is not even admissible because I made it without her consent. But you can use it to show Tyler. He deserves to know the truth about who he married. After Derek left, I lay in the hospital bed with his phone number saved in my contacts and the recording file transferred to my device. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. Hope. Dangerous. Fragile hope. But Derek was right about the legal problems. The recording was made without consent, in a state requiring two-party notification. Using it in court could backfire. However, showing it to Tyler privately was different. If I could get him to listen, really listen, maybe the truth would finally break through. I checked myself out of the hospital the next morning against medical advice. The doctor warned me about stress and blood pressure and the need for rest. I nodded and signed the forms and left anyway. At home, I called Derek. Are you willing to help me get this recording to Tyler? What did you have in mind? Meet me at my house. We need to plan this carefully. Derek arrived an hour later. We sat in my kitchen, and I laid out what I knew. Amber's previous victims, the pattern of abuse, the fake medical records, everything. Derek added what he knew about Amber's methods, her connections, the way she planned every move. We need more than just the recording, I said. We need corroboration. Evidence that can't be dismissed. What about the other men she scammed? Walter and Donald? Walter is in Arizona. Getting him here in time for the hearing is not realistic. But maybe he'd be willing to write a statement, do a video deposition. I called Raymond, even though he had withdrawn from the case. I know you can't officially help, but can you give me Walter Preston's contact information? Please. Raymond was quiet for a moment. I'll text it to you. But Archie, be careful. These people play for keeps. Walter answered on the third ring. His voice was rough, old. Who's this? Mr. Preston, my name is Archie. I'm in a situation very similar to what you went through with Amber Carter. I need your help. There was a long pause. Amber. That witch. What's she done now? I explained everything. Walter listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, I'll help. I've been waiting 8 years for someone to finally nail her. Tell me what you need. We arranged for Walter to record a video statement describing his experience with Amber, the manipulation, the financial exploitation, everything. He agreed to testify if needed. Then Derek and I made a list. We had 48 hours before the conservatorship hearing. We needed to gather every piece of evidence, contact every potential witness, and prepare a presentation that would be undeniable. It was a desperate plan, but it was all we had. We worked through the night. Derek reached out to people from Amber's past, old friends who had seen her manipulative side. Walter sent his video statement, heartbreaking and detailed. I compiled financial records showing suspicious transactions from my accounts. Dennis, despite his reservations, agreed to file motions to admit the new evidence. By the morning of the hearing, we had assembled a case. It was not perfect, but it was real, and it was true. I put on my best suit, the one my wife had bought me for our 40th anniversary. I looked at myself in the mirror, older, tired, but not defeated. Not yet. Don't let them win, I whispered to my reflection, remembering my wife's words. Then I drove to the courthouse. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, an American flag in the corner. Tyler and Amber sat with their attorney on one side. I sat with Dennis on the other. The gallery had a handful of people, including Helen, who looked troubled. The judge, a woman in her 50s named Judge Sarah Martinez, reviewed the files in front of her. This is a conservatorship hearing for Archie Peterson, petitioned by his son Tyler Peterson. Let's proceed. Amber's attorney, a slick man named Richard something, stood up. He presented their case methodically. The falsified medical records showing cognitive decline, Amber's testimony about my erratic behavior, Helen's reluctant statement about concerns for my mental health, the harassment and stalking allegations, the fake video accusation. It looked bad. Really bad. Tyler would not even look at me. Then it was our turn. Dennis stood, looking less confident than I had hoped. Your Honor, we contest the conservatorship petition. Mr. Peterson is of sound mind and has been the victim of a sophisticated fraud scheme. That's a serious allegation, Counselor, Judge Martinez said. What evidence do you have? We'd like to call several witnesses. The judge nodded. Proceed. Dennis called Walter Preston via video link. Walter's face appeared on a screen, weathered and angry. He told his story, how Amber had targeted him after his wife died. The manipulation, the isolation, the financial devastation. His voice shook with emotion, but his facts were clear. Amber's attorney objected. This is character assassination and irrelevant to the question of Mr. Peterson's mental competency. It establishes a pattern of fraudulent behavior by the petitioner's wife, Dennis argued. Judge Martinez allowed it to continue. I'll determine relevance. Proceed. Next, Derek took the stand. He looked terrified but determined. He explained how Amber had paid him to stage the affair video, how she had scripted everything, how she had threatened him when he wanted out. Do you have proof of these payments? The judge asked. Derek produced bank records, showing deposits from Amber's account to his. $5,000, broken into smaller amounts to look less suspicious. But the pattern was clear. Amber whispered urgently to her attorney, her composure cracking for the first time. Then Dennis dropped the bomb. Your Honor, we have a recording of Mrs. Peterson discussing her scheme. He played Derek's recording. Amber's voice filled the courtroom, cold and calculating, discussing Tyler and me like chess pieces, planning her next victim, laughing about how easy it was to manipulate lonely men. The judge's expression hardened. Tyler's face went pale. He looked at Amber, really looked at her, and I saw the moment the fog lifted. Amber's attorney jumped up. This recording was obtained illegally, without consent. It's inadmissible. In criminal court, perhaps, Judge Martinez said. But this is civil proceedings. I have discretion on admissibility, and I'm deeply troubled by what I'm hearing. Dennis presented the cybersecurity expert's report on the falsified medical records. Digital fingerprints traced back to a computer at Amber's workplace. Dates and times documented. The expert testified that the entries were added remotely, that Dr. Morrison's digital signature had been forged. The case was building. Each piece of evidence knocked down another part of Amber's story, but the most powerful moment came when the judge asked Tyler directly, Mr. Peterson, having heard this evidence, do you still wish to proceed with the conservatorship petition? Tyler looked at his father for a long moment. His eyes were red, his jaw tight. Then he looked at Amber, who was staring at him with an expression I could not read. Tyler stood up slowly. Your Honor, I'd like to withdraw the conservatorship petition. Amber grabbed his arm. Tyler, no. This is all lies. They're manipulating you. Tyler pulled away from her. Stop. Just stop. His voice broke. I've been hearing your voice in my head for 2 years, telling me what to think, who to trust. And I believed you because I loved you. But I don't even know who you are. He turned to me. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Judge Martinez looked relieved. The conservatorship petition is withdrawn. However, based on the evidence presented here today, I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of fraud, identity theft, and harassment. Mrs. Peterson, you are advised to retain criminal counsel. Amber stood up, her face twisted with rage. This is insane. You're all believing a delusional old man and some paid witnesses. Mrs. Peterson, the judge said sharply, you will sit down and be silent, or I will hold you in contempt. Amber's attorney put a hand on her shoulder, forcing her back into her seat. But the mask was fully off now. Everyone could see the real Amber. The hearing ended. Amber's civil lawsuit crumbled without the conservatorship to support it. Her restraining order was dissolved. Within days, the district attorney filed criminal charges. The cybercrimes were serious. The medical record falsification, even more so. Walter and Donald's families, learning about the criminal case, filed their own civil suits against Amber. The predator had become the prey. Tyler filed for divorce the following week. We met for coffee at a diner near my house. He looked like he had not slept in days. "I don't know how to apologize enough," he said. "I let her turn me against you. Everything Mom warned me about Amber, I ignored it. And then when you tried to show me the truth, I called you crazy." "You were manipulated by a professional," I said gently. "Amber is very good at what she does. She knew exactly how to exploit your grief and your love. I should have listened to Mom. She saw through Amber from the beginning. Your mother was wise about people. I should have listened too." We sat in silence for a while, drinking bad coffee and working through 2 years of damage. "Can we fix this?" Tyler asked. "Us? We're sitting here, aren't we?" "That's a start." It took months. Tyler went to therapy to process the manipulation and betrayal. I went too, to work through my own grief and the trauma of almost losing everything. We started having Sunday dinners, awkward at first, then gradually more comfortable. Derek got a new job at a different gym and started volunteering with a fraud victim support group. He said helping others deal with manipulators helped him forgive himself for being one of Amber's tools. Walter flew out to visit. He and I and Donald's son, who came representing his father, spent an afternoon sharing our stories. 3 families destroyed by the same woman, but we had survived. And now Amber was facing justice. The criminal trial took a year. Amber was convicted on multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and harassment. She received 8 years in prison. Her assets, what little she had not already hidden, were seized to pay restitution to her victims. On the day of her sentencing, Tyler and I sat in the courtroom together. Amber glared at us as she was led away in handcuffs. But we just sat there, united, and watched her go. Afterward, Tyler and I drove to the cemetery. We stood at my wife's grave, the November wind cold around us. "I'm sorry, Mom," Tyler said quietly. "You were right about everything." I put my hand on his shoulder. "She knows. And she forgives you. Both of us." We stood there for a long time. Father and son, healing. I learned a lot through this nightmare. I learned that being right is not enough. You need evidence, allies, and patience. I learned that the system is slow and imperfect, but it can work if you don't give up. I learned that manipulators like Amber count on their victims being isolated, ashamed, and too exhausted to fight. But most importantly, I learned what my wife tried to tell me before she died. That family bonds, even when damaged, can be repaired if both people are willing to be honest about their pain and their mistakes. Tyler and I lost 2 years to Amber's manipulation, but we got each other back. That's what matters. My wife used to say that the truth is like water. You can dam it up, redirect it, even poison it for a while. But eventually, it finds its way through. She was right. Amber tried to dam up the truth with lies and false evidence and manipulation. But in the end, water always wins. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt manipulated by someone close to you? Someone who turned your own family or friends against you? Made you question your own reality? How did you fight back? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's going through the same thing. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more true stories about overcoming injustice and fighting for what's right. And share this with someone who needs to hear that the truth, no matter how buried, will eventually come to light. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that even when things seem hopeless, even when everyone doubts you, standing up for the truth is always worth it. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and never give up on the people you love.